Welcome to The Explainer. So that ceasefire you heard about, it's shattered. And what was a localized conflict has now exploded into a sprawling shadow war. Today we're going to track Israel's fight as it unfolds on multiple fronts, a battle that stretches all the way from the streets of Beirut to the cities of Europe.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with the spark, the moment the ceasefire ended. Then we're going to follow the fire as it spreads, first to a high-stakes assassination in Lebanon, then back to the intense fighting in Gaza, from there into the covert world of spies in Europe, and finally to a truly stunning accusation from Iran that could change absolutely everything.
All right, let's set the scene. That fragile calm we saw in the Middle East, it's officially over. The ceasefire has collapsed, and Israel's response is now playing out on multiple simultaneous fronts, far, far beyond the borders of Gaza.
So you might be asking, why the sudden escalation? Well, Israeli officials are pointing to two main things: what they call renewed threats from Hamas and intelligence suggesting Hezbollah was gearing up for a fight. For Israel, that was the signal to go right back on the offensive, just like they did after the October attacks. That brief period of quiet is definitively over.
Okay, let's pivot to the first major ripple effect of this renewed conflict. We're talking about a high-stakes, targeted assassination right in the heart of Lebanon's capital, Beirut. This is a big one.
You really have to understand who this target was to get how big of a deal this strike is. This wasn't just some mid-level commander. Tabatabai was the head of Hezbollah's entire ground operation, and, crucially, he led their elite Radwan force. Think of them as special ops, trained specifically to infiltrate Israel. And this guy, he was basically a ghost, having escaped assassination 3 times before. Taking him out was a massive strategic blow. And get this, the source material uses this incredible term to describe the strike, Raja Bete, which translates to royal hunt. Now that isn't just military jargon, it signals just how important this guy was. It frames him as the ultimate prize in a long, calculated pursuit. The strike itself hit Dahia, which is a known Hezbollah stronghold, and the aftermath was pretty significant. The main target was eliminated, sure, but the strike had a much broader impact. We're looking at 5 people killed and nearly 30 others seriously injured. It just goes to show you the high collateral cost of these kinds of precise, targeted strikes in a really dense urban area. And Hezbollah's response? Well, it was immediate and exactly what you'd expect. They released a statement vowing revenge, declaring that Israel had crossed a red line. And that, in turn, has put Israel on high alert all along its northern border, beefing up its troop presence, basically bracing for impact. But here's the thing. While all eyes were suddenly on Lebanon, the original conflict reignited with incredible force right back where it all started, inside Gaza. The intensity of the conflict in Gaza since the ceasefire ended, it's just staggering. Just think about this number for a second. 500. We're talking about roughly 500 separate strikes, a relentless barrage from drones, from fighter jets, from ground artillery. It's completely changing the landscape on the ground. And of course, behind that huge number of strikes is an absolutely devastating human toll. Those 500 attacks have resulted in a reported 342 deaths and many, many more injuries. It's just a brutal, stark reminder of the reality on the ground now that the truce is over. So what's Israel's justification for all this? Well, they're defending these actions by calling them necessary, preemptive strikes. The argument is that they had to act to stop Hamas fighters from crossing a certain demarcation line to target Israeli soldiers, and also to stop the group from rebuilding its critical network of underground tunnels. But this fight isn't just happening on the ground in Gaza and on the border with Lebanon. A huge part of Israel's strategy is cutting off Hamas's international support, and that has pushed this conflict into a totally different arena, a covert front. We're talking about Israel's legendary intelligence agency, the Mossad, taking action thousands of miles away on European soil. So check out how this all unspools. It all kicks off with one key arrest in Germany, a British citizen with alleged ties to Hamas, caught with a stash of weapons. That single arrest triggers what Mossad is calling a cleaning operation across the continent, which then uncovers this wider network in Austria and other countries. And the intelligence trail for the whole plot, which was to attack Jewish targets, reportedly led right back to a meeting in Qatar. You see, this operation wasn't just about stopping one plot. It had a dual purpose. On one hand, it neutralized an immediate threat. But on a strategic level, it was also sending a crystal clear message to European governments. Hey, Hamas isn't some distant Middle Eastern problem. Their network is active on your soil, and they pose a direct threat to your security too. And now we get to what is, honestly, the most jaw-dropping escalation in all of this. A direct, public, and frankly shocking accusation from the regional heavyweight, Iran.
I mean, this is an absolutely extraordinary claim. We have Iran's own intelligence minister on the record publicly stating that Israel and the United States are actively conspiring to target the nation's highest authority, Ayatollah Khamenei. This takes the rhetoric way beyond general claims of destabilization to alleging a specific plot against the head of state.
And look, this accusation isn't coming out of a vacuum. There's a history here, a paper trail, if you will. Just this past June, Israel was targeting Iranian military officials and nuclear scientists. But even more directly, both Israeli and American leaders have openly talked about the idea of assassinating Khamenei in the past. There was even one report, and this is pretty wild, that President Trump actually approved a plan to do just that, only to cancel it at the absolute last minute. So for Iran, this threat feels very, very real. So you step back and look at the whole picture. You've got targeted strikes in Lebanon, a massive new assault on Gaza, spy games playing out in Europe, and now a direct accusation of a plot against Iran's supreme leader. The central question that all of this leaves us with is how much further can this rapidly expanding multi-front conflict go before it pulls the entire region into a much, much wider war?